whispers. Hello, everybody. I am so glad to hear excitement. If y'all don't mind muting while you're not talking, that would be amazing. You can use the chat. We'll let you all raise your hands to ask questions out loud if you would like. Appreciate you being here.
Perfect. So I think everybody's in here, but as people will keep on joining, but I think we can start. Hi everyone and welcome. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Okay, perfect. Hi everybody. Welcome to this session. You are more than welcome to have your cameras on. But we would kindly ask that you mute your mics just for now. My name's Elena. I'm a Girl Activist Fellow, and I will be hosting this panel. And today I'm incredibly honored to be your host for this important conversation on confidence. Um, just a quick introduction. Confidence, as most of us know, is very important in today's world. It is something we all, crave, struggle with, build, and rebuild. And today we're going to unpack what it really means, how it shows up in different spaces, and how we can help, young people like me and you feel more empowered in their own skin. So as many of you might know, today we're joined by two truly inspiring women, Malia Baker and Kate Kiyama, who will be sharing their insights on the world of confidence. So yeah, to begin with, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Kate, take it away. Go for it, girl.
Thanks, Malia. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Kiyama. I am the co-CEO at Shiz Fast, and I'm very excited to be here and to talk about something I'm very passionate about. And thank you for making space as well. Malia, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm like geeking out right now, seeing like people that I recognize, people that I don't recognize, new people, new faces. I'm so grateful that you're all here. My name is Malia Baker. I'm an actor, slash activist. I've worked with She's the First and Girl Up, and I'm just grateful to be here and to be talking to you guys today, and that you all actually wanted to join us. It's a really cool conversation with some amazing people as Elena and Kate. So, just excited to kick it off. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm also super excited. So I think we can just start directly with some of the questions that I've prepared for you guys. And we can talk about like questions from the audience later on. But one of the main questions that I had for you guys today was about confidence and how confidence often looks different in, different spaces and, on stage, in leadership, in activism. So for each of you, how has your idea of confidence evolved over time? And what does it look like for you today? If maybe Molly or Kate, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. My idea of confidence, I think stereotypically speaking, it was never being fearful, being the first to say something in a crowd, being okay in your own skin, and honestly having no doubts of who you are. And I think as I've grown up and my idea of the whole concept has kind of grown with me, it's not totally that. And it's okay that you don't know everything. And it's okay that maybe sometimes you're scared to say something on a room. So, not the absence of fear, but the embracement of it and wanting it to kind of fully absorb you so you can use it into whatever situation you want it to be in. And I strongly live by the phrase fake it till you make it because it's literally my job. I'm was a very, very shy kid. And I think it's only grown with how many people I've met and how they've inspired me over the years, such as look up to people such as Kate and see what they've done and just want to kind of take everything and put it on my own back as well. So yeah, it's not exactly stereotypical. You've got everything right away in my eyes.
Yeah, of course. That sounds like a very, very interesting. I think like a lot of people experience that in today's world. I know I do. What about you, Kate?
Yeah, no, I definitely loved that question and Malia's response to that. I think
confidence looks very different at different stages of my life. I wouldn't say I was a typically shy child. I was always the first one to want to raise my hand or challenge a status quo in school. I went to a boarding school, and I was the last born, so I felt like by default I had to speak up. But over the years, I've realized that confidence is in that ability to raise your hand in class or to be the loudest. Sometimes confidence is holding space for other people. It's being quiet. It's unlearning some of the things we've been told. It's challenging the status quo. It's also not always having the right answer. I think it's really important for us to normalize saying, I don't know, but I'll find out or I'll ask someone else. Um, so I think confidence, the perception of how we're taught be confident and or be like so and so, it's maybe because they're taking a leadership role or a very public facing role, but that doesn't mean that if you're quiet and you're being introspective and you're being empathetic that you're not being confident as well. I think it means embracing both, but also learning how to cede space and give space for other people as well. I also had a t-shirt that said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because I think sometimes confidence and courage are so inextricably linked. And we often think that courageous people are confident people, but sometimes they don't have the confidence. They just confidence in saying, I'm scared, but I'll still do it. It's things like public speaking, it's raising your hand in class, it's volunteering to do something that's again public facing. I think sometimes it's courage that I would want us to be more intentional about focusing and recognizing and telling yourself, I know I'm scared, but I want to do this. And then looking at the end, I've often seen, like, especially in my career trajectory, the moments when I was most scared of doing something, saying yes, or endorsing something, or taking a new leadership role, it was more the courage than the confidence. And the outcome, people think I was confident to say yes, for example, the because CEO, she's the first.
Yeah, love that. I think that's very, very important lesson for all of us to be courageous enough to keep on working and showing up. Um, I think those both were so, so great and insightful answers. Another question that I had for both of you, as you know, both Malia and Kate, you work in within very public settings where you have to interact with various people and situations. How do you both deal with moments of self-doubt or imposter syndrome, and what advice would you give to people struggling with similar things? Maybe Kate, if you want to start this time.
Um, I think it's important, first of all, to acknowledge that you're not alone if you're feeling that you're having moments of self-doubt or imposter syndrome. I think it's first calling it that a huge percentage of the population feel that, but I think it's how we navigate that, that we don't get stuck in the fear. But what I typically do, I like, and this I encourage especially my mentees to write. Imposter syndrome is often because you think you can't do it or you're not deserving. So I think the first thing I encourage us to do is actually write down. I tell people 1,000 things, but that's scary. So start with 100 things that you can do. I can drive, I can write, I can sing, I can perform, I can write them down. Because when you feel imposter syndrome coming, if you go and look at that book you've written, it counters this fear that I can't do one thing. But when you keep acknowledging that there's so many things that you do that you don't even know that you can do, or we put them as non-existent, I feel like the more we build our own reserves and fill our cups, when those moments comes and you reflect and say, but I can do all this, it helps counter. So I think that's one strategy I started when I was 16 years old, which has served me very, very, very well. And you'll be amazed at so many things that you can do that maybe your peers can't do. And it's a really good thing. I think the second thing is also acknowledging what's driving you from feeling the imposter syndrome, because it's usually a voice inside. But I bet you not that sometimes that voice is actually not yours. It's probably something you've read in a magazine, it's something you've seen on social media, it's something someone has said. So I think for me, the second thing is challenging, where is this voice coming from? And this doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to criticism, because again, it's important for us to distinguish. Sometimes criticism is it coming out from a place of courage or from a place of control? If someone is giving you feedback to control you, they're probably not giving you good feedback or feed forward, as I like calling it. But it's to maybe check you or limit you or to make you close space. So while you get feedback, I think make sure the voice is truly coming from a place of courage to help you grow. So that then you're also not listening to other people's voices, the naysayers that make you again feel that you're not deserving and you're not worthy.
I love that so much. I think that's very, very good advice, especially like writing down things that you know you're good at and then using that when you feel self-doubt. Malia, what are your advice and how do you look at this question?
I literally am mentally writing down everything that Kate just said. I can't even deal. That felt like targeted advice. I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. No, fully. I think what Kate said was so accurate and so helpful in a way that actually feels accessible. I think a lot of the time we have these questions that are so broad and in the spectrum of, I honestly don't know, and I'm gonna try to get my way through it by saying a bunch of things that I don't even know if I fully stand by and have practiced in my own day-to-day life. But to have an answer as clearly as this is exactly what I do and this is how you could do it too is like an actual dream. So I'm gonna take that and run with it. I think writing down things, I've done similar things. I think especially being an actor, it's been interesting to see when things don't come out. When you film something like years and years ago and you're like, oh, it's going to be huge and it's going to be amazing. And then it just doesn't release. And you're like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Like, that was the only thing that I've had in like 2 years. Like, where does this go from here? Keep in mind, I'm only 18. So to have this be an existential crisis at this age is really just for what reason? What point? And I think like watching back on my old projects and looking at photos from set, being like, I actually did do that, and I actually feel proud of my work. And kind of as a similar thing to what Kate was saying, just giving yourself evidence, giving yourself the receipts, and making time to put in those receipts for yourself, whether that's journaling it down, whether that's having a video diary, whether that's having a scrapbook of photos that you're like, this is my life on paper. I think it's a beautiful way to look back on the things that you've done and what you want to do in order to, yeah, keep living yourself, be authentic. I think also what's helped me with imposter syndrome is finding some sort of goal, whether that's a small one or a big one, and slowly working towards it because it seems like such a big thing in your head then. It's this huge anticipation and build up of like one day I'll get that and one day I'm there and every step is a step closer to that goal. And I think as you feel every step and with every piece of work that you do, it gratifies even more and it becomes more of your world and your whole worldly perception. And I think that's helped me a little bit. But yeah, it really is different for everyone. And I think finding something that floats your boat in your own way and really works for you in that same accessible way is a fun thing to experiment with because it's something that I feel we all go through at one point or another, as annoying as it is. But it's needed because you come out the other end so much stronger and clearer and more confident in yourself. And yeah, it's great. Love it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's so a really, really interesting insight into this question. As y'all know, She's the First is a organization that focuses on girls and their rights. So I want to ask, in a world where that often defines women and girls by external standards, how do you stay grounded in your own inner confidence? What keeps you centered? Yeah, and it's up to you guys, whoever wants to take it away first.
Lana's like, I don't know what to do here. Just take it away. Um, I think that's such a great question. I think it's so easy to fall into the standards and stereotypes that are external and come from a source not of your own being or your own values and morals. I think I was very grateful and fortunate in the way where I grew up with a single mom with a younger sister. It was literally an all-girl household growing up. And my mom made sure to raise us with a lot of those things that I don't know would have happened with the dude in the house. And so it was just a lot of like crossing out of everything that comes from the external. And I think as I've grown older, I've been able to differentiate what my own values are versus what other people's are. And I think that first comes with realizing and recognizing what you do have is like your moral code. What do you care about? What do you not care about? What are you passionate about? What do you want to change in the world? What do you want to keep the world the same in some ways? I think discovering those things about yourself is the key kind of to figuring out what you don't care about. It's not exactly in the same line, but it really reminds me of that phrase of don't take harsh words from someone you wouldn't ask advice for. Um, and I wouldn't ask advice for a lot of people in this world, and yet I have found myself in this situation where I'm so hurt and devastated by what's being said by people I don't even know by that means. So it's kind of figuring out who you actually value and who you want to take their advice on and who you care about. Um, because yeah, I have those people as well, and they matter much more to me than all the other ones that I wouldn't necessarily take any advice from.
Yeah, love that so much. I agree so much with like, oh, like if you weren't able to take advice from this person, why are you like still listening to them? It's really, really crucial to keep in mind. What about you, Kate?
I think it's just reminding myself that my value isn't to be earned or to be proven. It's already something that I have. But then also recognizing that girls and women are not homogeneous. And so the standards of this is what an ideal fill in the blank here should be is already very confining because we look very different. We come from different backgrounds. So it's first of all recognizing that that's an unrealistic expectation already set by other people, not me. But reminding myself that I don't need to prove myself to anyone. It's already a value that I already have. But I think beyond that is also just making sure that, as to Malia's point, we really spend time knowing who you are, figuring out like what makes Kate tick, what makes Jenny tick. So spending time exploring and really discovering who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and why. And that journey, I think, is really important, especially when we're young women, because it often affects very many decisions we make in life. So spending time being very curious about yourself, what makes you happy, what makes you excited, spending time with self-discovery. And this goes also to how we recharge because when people talk about self-care, again, self-care is very different from each of us because there's some of us who a spa day will be excellent. There's some of us who stay in home, Netflix, just on the couch, will recharge. It looks very different because of our personality. But sometimes we don't really understand why sometimes we go out maybe with our friends and you feel more drained. It's because maybe your personality, you need to maybe be more introspective, spend more time recharging. So I think making sure that you find out what your values are, who you really are, to help us be able to really realize that we're in this journey without being vain, conceited, or proud to be better people. And we don't have a standard that we need to prove to other people.
Love that so much. I mean, I think I have a follow-up question, which is kind of similar to what we've already talked about. But I mean, how do you protect your confidence when facing criticism or resistance? Yeah, because I mean, I guess it's similar to what you guys have already answered, but how do you look at that? Yeah, maybe Kate, do you want to talk about it?
Yes. So I think criticism is part of life, but as I mentioned, you have to be careful where it's coming from. Um, Sometimes the criticism isn't about you, it's maybe to pull you down or hurt you. So you have to really have good ways of checking. And again, getting feedback is a really important skill, whether it's in school, whether it's at work, whether it's in a professional setting or a private setting. Getting feedback is a really important skill that if people feel safe enough to give you feedback, I want us to be open. But not all feedback is coming from a good place. So I think one thing is really making sure that you can be able to distinguish the two. But I think the other thing is also for me to remind myself that criticism means you're doing something worthwhile. If you're not getting criticism for work that you're doing, if it's a group project, it's school, it's work, there might be maybe you're not pushing too hard. Criticism in itself is not a bad thing, and I think especially for women, we need to be careful about that because we often are scared about being criticized because then it's not about you. It's about maybe the work. Maybe your teacher is telling you have an opportunity to uh, have a better assignment returned in. The perfectionism is what we need to steer clear of because we can't be perfectionism in itself is not a goal we should be aspiring to. So I think it's also okay for us to recognize criticism in itself is not bad, but how I try protecting myself is always checking myself like, is this helping me grow? If the answer is yes, then I'll take it. If I think that it's not coming from a good place, then just like a sieve, I'll filter it off and, listen to it with a pinch of salt, and that helps guard and protect me. But the other thing I think is also having like a really good support system who you can check because sometimes it's blurry. I don't know whether this feedback is coming from a good place or I'm already feeling salty because I don't know this is coming from a really good friend and how she said it might be a bit insensitive. So I think making sure I can be able to sound this to trusted circle members who can be able to check me and say, Kate, actually, I think here you're overreacting, or Kate, maybe this is actually good feedback, or I've been struggling to tell you this feedback, but thank you, Alania has been able to share it. I think allowing ourselves to have honest conversations with people we trust to also help us make sure we can distinguish that has also been helpful, and it has helped guard my heart and my gut a lot.
That is such great advice. What about you, Malia?
That is a great advice. That's very, very true. Guide your heart and your gut. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. I feel like I think what you said, Kate, about if you're getting criticism, then it's worthwhile. I always say, like, if I'm nervous, then it's worth it. Like, if I'm really anxious right now, it's got to be somewhat worth it if I'm feeling that much. And I think it goes in the exact same regards, which I'd never thought of before. If you're doing something worthwhile, if you're doing something that's making a difference, or you're doing something that's striking opinions in other people that they can actually feel and want the amount of effort to come back at you and say, hey, I actually don't really mess with this, and I want you to know that, then you're doing something that's touching people's hearts. And I think that's really interesting and a really, I don't know, a validating way to know that you're doing something right in a very weird sense. I grew up dancing, and my dance teacher, I'm such a people pleaser, especially when I was younger. It was so difficult for me to hear feedback or criticism, and take it as something that was helping me and something that I can learn from versus something that just told me you're not good enough, this isn't what you should be doing. Like, try something else. And my dance teacher, I remember, just told me everything that I'm telling you right now for your exam is something that I want you to use because I see it in you and because I'm actually watching you. Take them as little pieces of gold. Because if I'm not watching you, then I'm not going to give you any feedback. But since I am, everything that I want you to do, I want it to be done right. And I think that I've taken that advice with me in a lot of different areas in my life, because it's hard to not let it hit you under the surface and to feel like everyone's opinions are greater than your own or greater than what you had at first come up with that are sparking all of these things. So yeah, I'd say in the matter of wanting to differentiate criticism and feedback, they can come hand in hand. It's just exactly what Kate said, figuring out how it benefits you and who it's coming from that you actually value and want to hear that feedback with. That's the most important.
Love that so much as well. Um, Yeah, so another one of my questions was for young people like myself who are watching and listening and who might be unsure of their voice or their worth. What's one mind shift or mindset shift or small practice you'd recommend to start building real lasting confidence? I know we've already talked about, writing stuff down and not listening to, um, I guess, random people's advice, but what more do you think we can do for real confidence? Yeah. And I don't know, Malia or Kate.
Yeah, if you want to take
Yeah.
the pass.
I'll do
Kate.
it. I'll
Yeah.
do
Go
it.
ahead.
Yeah.
Pull my leg, pull my arm, I'll do it. I think real lasting confidence. I think that's never ending, to be honest. I feel like we're all still learning that in some sense. I don't think you ever get to some point in life where you feel like you've done it all and you can't grow anymore and you can be so happy with yourself that you feel like you don't like aren't actively searching out for something, but confidence is never ending. And with that, I think it's been more so the thing of, I don't know, learning about yourself and learning what you actually value as confidence and what you want to do out in the world. I think that growing up, I never really learned how to fail. And I mean that I never really learned how to pick myself back up. And I think that's something that the world can really get to know better, sitting in that, not even failure, sitting in that unknowing, sitting in that non confidence, because you're able to educate yourself on it. You're able to kind of psychoanalyze it in a way where you're able to take that next step that's even further, that next jump that's even longer. And you really do learn so much, not only about yourself, but how you want to navigate it the next time it comes up. And I think that's been confidence for me every time that I think I know something so well. And then simple examples of like, I thought I know an answer to a question, and it turns out I was so wrong. And you can't just let that crumble you forever. You're going to answer another question at some point in your life. And I think just knowing and getting comfortable with that feeling of I could be wrong, but I'm going to take that shot is um, something that's really helped me over the years.
Oh, I love that response, and I wish I had space like this when I was most of the majority of the audience here today. But in hindsight, I completely concur with what Malia has said. I think confidence is a skill. It's not innate in us. We have to practice. The better we become. So I think that's one thing I hope we all feel that when you think of the most confident person you know, it's taken time. It's taken maybe years or months or however long it's taken for practice for them to get to that level of confidence. So reminding us that it's a skill that can be learned. I think the other thing that I would share is, and I know we've talked about the power of writing. In moments in my life when I have felt scared or I've not felt confident, I try thinking about where would Kate be exactly a year from now and write to my future self. And what I actually do, I physically post this. Like I try as much as possible, especially when I'm abroad. I post those letters to myself so that hopefully it will take. Our mail is it's snail mail. It's not anything to write home about. But usually when I get this letter in my mail, I probably overcome whatever challenge that was felt like a mammoth for me. But because it's written, and I try as much as possible to write with pen and paper, not so that then I can see this is really my handwriting. This is not AI. This is not some prank. It helps me remember that I can overcome. So, however big a challenge is, sometimes if we take a step back and think about the pros and cons if you don't take this step, or if I do take this step, what would be the biggest outcome? I think has helped me realize that again, it's a muscle. The more I do this, the more I can see it might be a big thing, but with history, I've been able to overcome so much. So, why would this situation be different? I think has helped me grow. So just again to reiterate to us that this is something that many of us struggle with and it might not appear. And I read about especially very good orators, including Obama, and he talks about when he before, when you're still in law school, he started learning how to be able to practice speaking. And I think he's one of the most eloquent and powerful orators. But he always talks about holding his cufflinks or his watch to you do something that is not very outwardly obvious to people to help you feel grounded or to help you feel confident. So figure out what that is. I talk with my hands a lot. Some people tell me I talk very quickly, especially when I'm excited or I'm elated or I'm excited. So I think making sure people give you feedback and then you try and pace yourself with that feedback has been helpful to sound more confident or be able to go through processes as well. So I think those would be my tips, but reminding yourself that these two will pass, but let's not also be our biggest hindrances, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges I've sometimes also felt. I stood in my way of a big opportunity, and it's because of the fear. So feel the fear, but do it anyway.
Okay, perfect. That was such great advice from the both of you. So now we have a couple of questions in the chat that I would like to bring up. One of the questions that has been recurring in the chat is like, how do you feel comfortable with people getting ahead in life, or how do you feel confident in the place that you're in right now? And you don't stress about like, oh, my peers are way ahead of me, and like that you're falling behind. Like, how do you deal with that? Yeah, I don't. Maybe Kate, do you want to take it first, and then Malia, you can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like that was a very spot on feeling when I was in my 20s. I worried that my college classmate or my neighbor who were the same age is in a different league than me. I felt like the competition was very much alive in my 20s. And this was self driven, but it was also driven by the society, my family, my friends. The comparison was, I think, also just being on social media didn't make it any better. But one of the things that I reflected on was our paths were very different. Some of them were not in law school like me. So there's someone who went and maybe did a BA in education or IT, for example, probably graduated faster than I did just because of the length of the study, but still the comparison was there, which didn't make sense. But even within law school, there's still that comparison that someone is taking this elective because they want to go through that. But I remember one moment where I became still with myself is recognizing that the only person I should be competing with is truly Kate of last year. It should be me or my shadow. You know, that's a very cliche thing to say, but life is I don't think that we should life is a race. If you have to use that expression, it's a race against yourself, not against your siblings, not against your neighbor. So I think recognizing that our journeys and our situations are very different helps us recognize that the comparison is like comparing oranges and pineapples. Very, very different. Complete the same fruits but different paths. An orange will never be a pineapple and vice versa. I think that helped me stay true. But the other thing that I think really helped me was writing my goals. Because again, the comparison didn't make sense because I didn't know what my neighbor's goals were. I didn't know what my siblings' goals were. Yet I still felt that we have to be at the same league. We had to be earning the same or entering the same blue collar job or blue chip company. But I think writing my goals, and again, what Malia shared, going back to your values and really asking, why do I want to work in this company? Is it because of prestige? Is it because it's my family? Or is it because I really want to make a difference? I think the more I wrote down my goals and I blocked out people's voices and said, what does Kate want in 5, 10 years? That helped me realize that it's okay to cheer and clap for other people, but not to compare them and to recognize that my journey is my journey and it's a different race. Malia, what do you have to add there?
I, yes, hand it over. Okay. I would totally agree with Kate. I think that what you said about same fruits but different paths is so valuable. And also, one thing that I had never thought of before is the things that you view in achievement for other people could be so far from their own goals. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something huge in their books that they're super proud of. It's just what you value and what you see as an achievement that you're then deeming as, wow, they've gone so much ahead of me in life, which I think is so helpful. I've spoken about that with a couple of my friends in the industry as well, who, I don't know, it's this constant pool of like kids going out for the same thing, and you all kind of look alike and you all like kind of have the same acting skills, and so you're going out for the same parts naturally. um and some people get it and then some people other get it, and it's just really about, I think, knowing that your turn is coming and knowing that it's not a lack of talent, it's not a lack of your own ability, more so your opportunity is just still waiting for you. I'm a strong believer of everything happens for a reason, and that the time will come when the time is meant to come. And I think I've lived by that so far, where in the moments where I'm really down in the dumps and I'm like, nothing is coming my way, it's just that reminder and self-infliction of the time just isn't here yet, but it will come. And that doesn't mean that it's never going to come. It can come 5 years down the line, it can come 10 years down the line, it could come tomorrow. But taking that chance and looking out for those signs as affirmations have been the greatest help for me.
Another question that keeps reappearing in the chat is like, how do you rebuild confidence when a big change happens in your life? Um, yeah, so this can be regarding work, school, and other things. Like, how do you guys look at this? Maybe Malia, you can start this time.
How do I rebuild confidence after?
Rebuild confidence, yeah, when a big change happens in life.
Hmm, interesting. How do I rebuild confidence? I'm trying to think of like an instance where a change would. Oh, okay, easy. I feel like I think that rebuilding confidence after a big change, I was really hard to accept the fact that everything is somewhat temporary and everything does change at some point in your life. I thought that was such a mean concept when I was younger, and by younger I mean like a couple of years ago. I still don't fully get it, but I'm learning to accept it. And I think with that, it's just been more so that it's not targeted at you. It's a thing in the wave of life that can be so annoying and irritating. Rebuilding confidence after that is essential though, because you're gonna not for you if it's not for your future self. I love what Kate said previously about writing a letter to your future self. I think I'm definitely gonna be using that from now on. And I think using that in this instance as well could be so helpful, knowing that it's just a moment and moments pass, and the same feeling that you're feeling of devastation or sadness or unconfidence, it's the same thing as when you're super uplifted and excited and confident. It's all just temporary and it all moves in motions and waves, and knowing that the lows are going to be very equally attempted with the highs is very comforting in its own sense. After you, Kate.
Yeah, Kate, how do you look at this question?
Plus one, 100 of what Malia has said. I think it's just remembering that every season in our life teaches us something, and sometimes it's very painful for us, especially when it's something negative or something sad, for us to think that there's a lesson through that. But remembering that we're resilient, remembering that we have skills that sometimes we don't know we have, but they're unearthed through some experiences, I think is how encourage us to build confidence after experiences. And I've had several of those, especially very negative ones in life, whether it's a job that I didn't get or an opportunity that I thought I was deserving and I prepped for and I but I didn't get. And of course I was upset and angry and mad. I think it's first of all acknowledging all those feelings are valid. But when you calm down, it's maybe interrogating people and my mentees, did you ask for feedback? If you get that generic, I'm sorry you didn't get this opportunity, I always ask, do we ever have the courage to go back to the hiring manager and ask, can you give me specific feedback? Because that's where we grow. If you just accept that email and you don't know, that's how I would say would build by being open to ask questions and being vulnerable is where we have strength as well.
Perfect. That was such a great way to round off this conversation. Thank you so much, Malia and Kate, for sharing your powerful insights and stories. This conversation really reminded us that confidence isn't about having it all figured out. It's about showing up and believing in ourselves, even when it's hard. Thank you to everyone who joined us. I hope you're leaving with something that inspires you to stand a little taller and speak a little louder. And of course, thank you to She's the First for making this space possible. Any final remarks, Kate or Malia? Um,
Thank you guys so much for joining. This is so sweet. Wait, can we take a photo? A little
yeah, of
Zoom
course.
photo of us all together? Okay,
Yeah,
ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Adorable.
yeah,
Love it.
great.
Love it, love it, love it.
Perfect. Yeah, and you guys are more than welcome to join our panels, which we will be holding over next week and the week after. So you can head on to She's the First to get more information about that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, okay. Until next time, see you guys later. Bye.